All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for some real people just like you and me. So my phone was blowing up and I checked it out, and more sad news in the world of rock and roll. And this one you can file under kind of strange, kind of weird. Drummer for the Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins, has passed away. Taylor Hawkins was only 50 years old. Taylor Hawkins, who served for 25 years as the legendary drummer for rock band Foo Fighters, has died. The band released a statement earlier tonight announcing his tragic and untimely loss. No cause of death has been revealed. Okay, well, at least they didn't say natural causes. Hawkins was 50. Born in Texas and raised in California, Hawkins got his start as a touring drummer. One of his first major gigs was a 2-year stint as the drummer for Alanis Morissette on multiple tours, including the one in support of her massively successful Jagged Little Pill. Yeah, not one of my favorite records, but I understand it was a big deal back in the 90s. But when Hawkins' acquaintance and fellow drummer Dave Grohl approached him for recommendations for a replacement for outgoing Foo Fighters drummer William Goldsmith, Hawkins skipped the recommendations and simply put his own name forward, which is interesting. I guess he felt he was more qualified than anyone else. Grohl reportedly hadn't even bothered to ask, considering how much bigger a name Alanis Morissette was at the time than Foo Fighters. Hawkins would spend the next 25 years with the band, appearing on their third album, There Is Nothing Left to Lose. It's a tenure that saw him win Grammys, international success, and the title of one of the world's best drummers. Interesting. Not an easy distinction to carve out for oneself when you're sharing a stage with Dave Grohl. Okay. Grohl did some drumming on There Is Nothing, but ultimately ceded the seat to Hawkins permanently on the band's next album, One by One. I was thinking, how come Dave Grohl isn't the drummer in this band? But now I know why. Okay, so, again, got up early. So I apologize. Production value of this video isn't going to be the greatest thing you've ever seen. All I can say is here we go again with this. He's 50 years old. Is anyone going to ask questions at all ever about these situations? I mean, was it Bob Saget? Ultimately, we learned that Bob Saget, hit the headboard, like fell and his head hit the headboard, and that's the official cause of death. Because people do that all the time. When I'm going to bed, I miss and I tend to land on the headboard. The stuff they come up with, and you're sitting there going, yeah, that makes sense. So again, the other issue here, all right, and it's an important issue, and I'm going to talk about it briefly here, is that this band were big league advocates for doing the thing and the protocol and the QR code and all of the above. In fact, there were several articles that really ticked me off. And it has to do a lot with, with freedom comes a price, Dave. This is the price of freedom. Okay, 50 years old. Now, again, I'm just speculating. I don't know. They did not list a cause of death. Doesn't mean they don't know the cause of death. They just said they're heartbroken and it's tragic and we need to all kind of just move on. And this isn't weird. And and everybody would say, well, you're a conspiracy theorist because you're just linking stuff together and you're trying to make stuff into stuff that it isn't, and just knock it off because, this is what happens in life. Really? Healthy guys at 50? Really? They just here one day and gone the next? Charlie Watts was 80 when he died, right? And still playing drums right until the end. I don't know. The other issue here is that I'm not a big fan of this band. And couple that with the way this article is written, was he one of the best drummers maybe currently on the scene? I don't know. There are a lot of great drummers from my era who are still with us who I think would qualify. Greg Bissonette, anyone? I mean, it just, I don't know. I read some of these things and I go, okay, well, I miss that. I miss that he was the most important drummer right now, or one of the biggest drummers of all time. Okay, I'm sure his skills were fantastic. I think part of my disconnection here is my own ignorance. I just plead ignorance to this because I don't follow this band. For those of you who do follow this band, who liked this band, I was never a fan and just not my cup of tea. There are a couple of songs maybe in the early days from the 90s that I listened to in context with whatever else they were pushing, which I believe was, again, a period of time that really changed the music industry, and not for the better. Now, doesn't mean they don't have lots of fans all over the world. Didn't they play the Super Bowl not too long ago? I think it was the Super Bowl. I think they were one of the last rock bands. I may have gotten that one wrong. Might not have been the Super Bowl, but they're always talked about in a positive sort of classic rock band way these days. I'm like, they're a classic rock band? All right, but here's the crux of the problem. When you're yelling at people, and you're basically lecturing people, yelling at them to go out and do this certain thing, because if you don't, you could wind up like this guy, right? Seriously, because that's what I've been hearing. Hillary Clinton recently has has apparently gotten the thing, right? But she's telling everybody how easy it is for her because of what she had done prior. And so I don't know, maybe it works for some people, doesn't work for other people. We don't know, because we really don't have all the information. But the 50-year-old thing is like, flashing lights, and humanity isn't doing what it used to do anymore. Humanity isn't freaking out at stuff like this. Maybe because we've seen so much, and a lot of us are jaded, and we're just like, oh yeah, there was a shooting last night in Chicago and 6 people died in gunfire and 10 were injured, and whatever, it's going to happen. We're used to this. So yeah, some of this, and it's because they keep putting it out there like this. Oh, there's no way we can sweep this one under the rug. We're going to have to tell people what happened, but we can't disclose why it happened, but we'll tell them that it happened. And then we won't say anything else for quite some time. And nobody cares, because again, the whole give the family privacy, naturally people just back off and they go, okay, I don't want to stir up controversy. I mean, they're mourning this person, and we should respect the wishes of the family. And I think those things are relevant in this. And that's what makes it even harder to get to the truth, because now you're put in an awkward position. Don't you have any compassion? Yeah, I have compassion. Here's what I want. If something caused this person to not be here anymore, I want to know what that is so we can prevent that from happening in the future. Pretty simple, right? But apparently, protecting the narrative to these people is more important than getting to the bottom of this. So anyway, maybe this has nothing to do with any of it, and I'll be proven to be just a wild, crazy conspiracy theorist at the end. It would be nice, actually, because then I could go on and say, oh, well, this explains that. Thank goodness, but there are just too many of these people. There's too many of them to ignore. And those who are paying attention to it know that, but those who aren't paying attention to it seem like they're in some kind of a fog of war on this. Like they can't, discern data or information. And they just look at this and they go, nothing to see here. I mean, he did abuse substances apparently. So maybe they'll attribute it to that. Maybe that's less embarrassing Maybe it's something completely non-related. So in any event, it's sad because if this guy was one of the great drummers of this current time, he should have lived a full life rather than be gone at just 50 years old. And he looks even younger than that. So in any event, that's my video on the topic. It just really stinks in so many ways. And hopefully the truth will come out about all of these things, and we can learn from it. That's what this is all about. We can learn from it by just blocking information or changing the narrative or making up excuses like he hit his head on the headboard. Yeah, that's not going to help us get to the bottom of anything. And by the way, it would keep people like me from talking about this. I would just say, okay, that's the cause and we can move on. But a lot of us aren't going to move on because we want to get to the bottom of this so it doesn't happen anymore. But you know what? A lot of people followed the advice of the Foo Fighters and they did what the Foo Fighters told them to do. Not only just because, supposedly, according to them, it was the right thing to do, but also because you had to do it in order to attend one of their concerts. Yeah. So that's a little bit crazy. Imagine having that responsibility and putting those recommendations out there, and then it turns out that those were not good recommendations. So that would probably give me a very guilty conscience, and I would feel like crap. And I would basically say, I'm sorry that I recommended you guys do this stuff. But no one's ever going to get to that point. That's the other part of this. No one's ever going to admit that maybe they were wrong. That's all. They can't do it. They just physically can't do it. All right, I've rambled enough here. Sad, of course, should we say thoughts and prayers? Obviously, thoughts and prayers going out to the family here and to the fans. This is tragic. No matter how you look at this is tragic. And I'm thinking it might have been preventable one way or another. Depending on what it is, 50 years old should be preventable. But in any event, maybe we'll find out someday what actually happened, and then I can eat some crow, which again, I'll eat crow all day long and say, boy, was I wrong. That would be better. It's just my feelings. It doesn't really matter. It's my ego, but it would be better to just eat the crow and have none of this happen, or have it be something completely non-related. That's what hopefully will be the cause here.